The Devils went down to Carolina, but got stopped by a hurricane.
Call Taylor Swift bad blood in Game 1 of the Battle of Ontario.
And bring out the armory. The Golden Knights go wild in Vegas.
All that and so much more on this Sunday night Stanley Cup playoff edition of Locked On NHL Game Night.
When that final horn sounds, you know it's time for Locked On NHL Game Night. All the post-game reactions to every game across the league, every single night, with insights only the hosts at Locked On can provide. Prepare to experience game day reactions like never before, only on Locked On NHL Game Night. Your team every day.
Hello there, hockey fans, and welcome to another episode of Locked On NHL Game Night. I'm Cam Stewart, a sad Boston Bruins fan on the third coast.
And I'm Tyler Feldman, a lifelong Penguins fan, born and raised in Pittsburgh, but currently loving life in Austin, Texas. And Cam, Lord Stanley is officially back. It is up for grabs. 16 teams, one trophy, and it all started this weekend.
Ooh, and boy, did it. 2 games on Saturday, 3 games on Sunday. Let's not waste any more time, and let's drop the puck north of the border up in Toronto. Tyler, Battle of Ontario. This is the one that us hockey nuts are looking forward to, but you mentioned it last week, maybe not so much the U.S. markets. First time since 2004, we've gotten a Battle of Ontario. We knew there was going to be bad blood in this one, and it is the Battle of Ontario, but you'd be forgiven if you thought this game was played in Panama, because that's all we heard all night was just Van Halen after Van Halen after Van Halen. The Leafs kept scoring. It was a game after 1 period. It was not a game after 2 periods. 6-2. The Leafs take this one in what quickly became a laugher, Tyler.
It became a boxing bout at a hockey game because Ottawa, at a certain point in the second period, the first period, the Senators came out to play, but the frustration in the locker room when you outshoot and outplay a team in a period in 20 minutes and you're still down 2-1, and then you come out in that second period and things aren't working still, you turn to the physicality, you take some bad penalties, you get out of sync, and that's what happens when you have 18 guys playing in their first playoff game. That inexperience showed, especially in that second period for the Ottawa Senators, and then it carried on into the third period. The big stars for Toronto came to play. Mitch Marner, Austin Matthews. You had Anthony Stolarz in net making some big saves. The big players for Toronto, they played super well. Ottawa couldn't match. They had the inexperience. They got out of sync, some maybe questionable penalty calls by the officiating crew, but you can't blame the refs. At a certain point, you've got to play the game. Ottawa turns to the physicality, a ton of penalty minutes, some fights, some drop gloves, everything at the end of this game. And I don't know, do the Senators have what it takes to piece things together, or will Toronto breeze through this battle this time around?
Well, if the Stars play like this for the Leafs, this could be a quick series. A goal and 2 assists for Marner, a goal and an assist for Tavares. Stolarz was terrific in this one with his 31 saves. And it did look like a team in Ottawa that just wasn't used to this yet. Usually that's what we're seeing from the Leafs, even though they play in the playoffs every year. But it's easy to say now, but it definitely looked like that for Ottawa. They were trying to do the right things. They had a bunch of shots in the first period. I think it was 13-5 in shots in the first period, and they're down 2-0. You know, they tried to play physical. They took some dumb penalties. They had some chintzy calls. They end up going for 36 penalty minutes in this one. Ottawa does 14 penalties. And it just looked like a team that hadn't kind of found the groove of what this playoff hockey thing is supposed to be. And I think that Ottawa can get back into that in this series, but honestly, Tyler, this didn't start all that well. I know a lot of Senators fans were really kind of baffled by the fact that Nick Cousins wasn't in the lineup for this one. This Nick Cousins is not a first liner. You bring him to the team for situations like this. He won the Cup last year. He doesn't dress for this one. They dressed Matthew Highmore instead, and they said after the game that was for penalty killing purposes. Well, they take a lot of penalties and 6 power plays for Toronto. They score on 3 of them, and they scored in the first 12 seconds of all of them. So that was a swing and a miss for Ottawa. It just looked like a team that wasn't ready for this stage. And I'm not saying maybe this year, but certainly this game.
The inexperience is what I go back to. You either do 2 things from a loss like tonight on the road. You rebound, you get things together, you figure out what went wrong, how to fix it, and you fix it quickly, and you turn things around in game 2 Tuesday night, or you let this loss unravel your team to a point of no return. First win this season for Toronto over Ottawa. You could tell that the stage was huge for this young, inexperienced Senator squad, and the crowd was into it. Outside the arena, inside the arena, the Maple Leaf fans, you can tell that they are the longest running team in the NHL to have not won a Stanley Cup. The energy palpable both outside and inside. The Brady Tkachuk sucks chants.
Yep.
You could hear them through the telecast on ESPN. That kind of energy for a young team, it can rattle you, and it did. And again, the top guys for Toronto, they were spectacular and did everything they needed to do. That 2-line pass from Austin Matthews ahead on Marner's goal was just tremendous. That play sticks in my head of wow, this Maple Leafs team means business, and they could make a deep run.
And you said it in there. I don't know if they got rid of the suits, if they cut the corporate tickets or what, but that place usually sounds like a library, and it was jumping.
A library is that's a little bit that's a little
extreme. They've had some dead atmospheres in the playoffs. I can't believe it because, much as I don't like Toronto, most people don't, but they've got one of the great fan bases in the entire world. And the place was absolutely up for it tonight. I know it's going to be that way in Ottawa too. They like to think of themselves as a little bit more blue collared, whether it's true or not. But maybe it was just the Battle of Ontario, but that felt like a playoff building. They were serenading them all night. I think Stolarz is the real deal. I think
he's 31. He's 31.
He's kind of out of nowhere.
Jersey guy. And he's had a slow start to his career, but I think the cool part of his story is you don't have to come into the league and be Dominic Hasek, be Martin Brodeur from the very get-go. His story
Dominic Hasek wasn't Dominic Hasek from the get-go.
Again, see, but if you're taking Dominic Hasek in the heart of what he played throughout his Hall of Fame career. But what I'm saying is his story is unique because it puts a chip on your shoulder of something to prove, and you could tell that that's his net. And if you have a guy with that kind of confidence, knowing that, hey, I'm not going anywhere. And hey, the Leafs, they've got a great array of goaltenders to choose from, but it's Stolarz' net right now. And I think that bodes well for Toronto.
And they haven't had a guy who's had that kind of attitude in net, I think, for a long time of this is my net, screw whatever curse you guys think there is. And that's the mentality the Leafs need. They really do. But I don't know that this is going to be as quick a series as people might think after game one. And
74% of teams. 74% of teams that take game one on home ice go on to win the series.
Maybe they'll win it in 7.
That leaves 26%. Simple math. But I'm just saying, I could see the Leafs really running through this Senators squad based on tonight. But again, that's why you play the entire series. A lot can change.
And Tyler, I'll give you one guy who is confident even after a tough one, and that is our local expert, Brandon Pillar of Locked On Sens.
The Ottawa Senators are back in the playoffs for the first time since 2017, but this is not the way they wanted things to start out. I'm Brandon Pillar from the Locked On Senators podcast as the Ottawa Senators lose 6-2 to the Toronto Maple Leafs in Game 1 of the Battle of Ontario. The Leafs power play was the story of this game. They go 3 for 6, helping them get to that 6-2 win, and all 3 of their power play goals happened within the first 10 seconds of the penalty. Ottawa is going to have to be a lot more disciplined, but also sometimes your best penalty killer needs to be your goaltender, and Linus Ullmark did not have his best game tonight, that's for sure. Ridley Gregg and Drake Batherson were the goal scorers here. The Ottawa Senators get their first playoff game out of the way. They need to find a way to use that experience and build on the good 5-on-5 play to have a massive bounce-back game in Game 2.
One last note on this one. Linus Ullmark, 10 career playoff starts. In 6 of those occasions, he has given up 4 goals or more. I threw a lot of numbers out there, but that means he's not been great. And it was the classic kind of Linus Ullmark playoff game. I don't think you could say he was terrible. He didn't have one of those leakers that you see on the highlight reel the next day. But when they needed a save, he didn't give it to him. He had one good sequence to kind of keep it at 4-1, I want to say, with a 5-on-3. But
Cam, it's hard though. It's hard for me to put this loss on Ullmark not making
Sure.
enough saves because the guys in front of him, the hockey was not there. The cohesiveness was not there. The discipline was not there. The goals from the Maple Leafs, they were great goals for the most part. You can't pin this. I know giving up 6 goals is quite a bit, but Toronto played a really, 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 really good game. Got some help from the officials to a certain degree, but took advantage of those penalties and scored a ton of goals.
You're right. And
I do think
Ullmark's team was shorthanded most of the night too.
I mean, Brandon there, that's a positive outlook. Like, you got this one out of the way. You figured it out. Now let's see what these 18 guys, these young guys who just played their first playoff game, what are they going to do in their second career playoff game? That's the big question.
That's a good point. The building's going to be wild. That series is going to be wild. Speaking of that, Minnesota out on the road to start their playoff journey against one of the favorites to win this thing in the Vegas Golden Knights. Let's take you out to the desert. Let's do it next on Locked On NHL Game Night.
Tonight's show is brought to you by GameTime, the Stanley Cup playoffs. They are here, and if you've never been to a live playoff game, it's unlike anything else. The intensity, the speed, the energy inside the barn, it's next level. And thanks to GameTime, getting in the door is easier and more affordable than ever before. GameTime is the fastest way to grab playoff hockey tickets, even for those must-see matchups. Prices actually drop as puck drop gets closer. And with last-minute deals, you can save up to 60%. And get this, their all-in pricing shows the total cost up front, so no surprise fees at checkout. Gotta love that. With Game Time ticket coverage, I know I'm protected, whether it's cancellation protection, job loss assurance, or their 24-hour return guarantee. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, that's code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. That's Locked On NHL for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed.
Let's send you out west here on Locked On NHL Game Night. I'm Cam Stewart, Tyler Feldman alongside, as we have the Minnesota Wild, one of those wild card teams that gets in on one of the last days. They head out to face the Vegas Golden Knights, a team that's almost impossible to beat in their own barn in the playoffs. Like, historically, as in the 7 years that they've existed, 8 seasons now that they've existed, they have been almost unbeatable at home in the postseason. And that continued on this night. A little back and forth. Matt Boldy kept Minnesota in it. He ties it at 1 in the first period. He gets them to within 1 in the third period. And this is what I love about this Golden Knights team, Tyler. I know that sounds, not a lot of things that people like about the Vegas Golden Knights. But with the stars that they've had, both on the team now and in the past, it's easy to forget that the guys who scored tonight, Pavel Dorofeyev, their leading goal scorer, and Tomas Hertl, their second leading goal scorer. Like, if I gave you who were the top 2 goal scorers for the Knights for the average NHL fan, I don't know that they'd come up with that. Dorofeyev gets a rocket on the one-timer. Tomas Hertl and Brett Howden scored 2, including the empty netter right at the buzzer. They scored Howden's first one, and Tomas Hertl's goal pretty similar on Gustafsson, kind of high and tight in a tight angle. And the Knights come away with this one beating the buzzer on the empty netter 4-2. I think a lot of people were surprised by how much Minnesota hung in this first game.
Well, the reality is, Cam, this might be a dark horse for best opening round series. Now, it may not be, but Minnesota has been banged up all season. They snuck into the playoffs as a wild card, but this Wild team, not really a wild card team. Had they stayed healthy throughout, I think this would be a different story. This is a tough first-round matchup for a very good Minnesota team. This Wild team, 26-2 record with both Kaprizov and Eriksson Ek in the lineup. That's only 28 games, okay? That's incredible. They were averaging more than 3.3 goals per game with both of them in the lineup. On the other side, 10-10-2 with both of them out of the lineup, averaging less than 2.3 goals per game. So if you look at those numbers, this team is totally different. Kaprizov probably would have been in the MVP hunt had he stayed healthy, but he missed a ton of games. So did Eriksson Ek. This is a good team. Gustafsson made some really great saves, but again, you're going up against a Vegas Golden Knights team that is so deep. They are just deep as can be. They play really strong hockey. Bruce Cassidy, what he's been able to do there, 7 trips to the playoffs in just 8 seasons. That environment is as good as it gets inside a hockey barn. It is fun to watch. You had Carrot Top setting the stage pregame. I mean, only in Vegas are you getting these ridiculous names. But then you look at the guys on this team, and you look at how they scored. Pavel Dorviev, I mean, the guy had 35 goals during the regular season. He had 13 power play goals during the regular season. He's a guy that, if you ask the casual hockey fan, they're probably like, who are you talking about? But that guy's a star.
Sounds like the guy. Yeah.
They've got guys, and Tomas Hertl, that shot to lead off the scoring in the first period, you described it, short side, top shelf. He had a sliver. How your grandma asked for that slice of cake, like not too much, just a sliver. That's how much room he had to score. And he somehow put it past Gustafsson. I mean, this is going to be a really tough series for Minnesota, but if they can manage to get to that level that the Vegas Golden Knights play with consistently, I can see this going 7 games. The reality is, though, this Vegas team is just so deep, so consistent across the board. I see a deep run for the Golden Knights. I wouldn't be shocked, though, if the Wild somehow pull off some miraculous upset, but that's a really good hockey team.
Yeah, and I'll bet one of the guys on your side for that miraculous upset is our local expert, Seth Topol. Let's hear about Game 1 through the Wild's point of view.
Game 1 goes to the Vegas Golden Knights for pretty much exactly what we thought it would. Hey, everybody, Seth Topol, host of Locked on Wild, your daily Minnesota Wild podcast, recapping a 4-2 win for the Vegas Golden Knights to take Game 1. Vegas scored right away in this game. They scored within the first 5 minutes. Tomas Hertl gets things going. Matt Boldy has the answer a couple minutes later. In the second, Joel Eriksson Ek gets called for a high stick. Vegas wins the faceoff, and they get a shot from Pavel Dorofeyev 5 seconds later to take a 2-1 lead at that point. Now, Brett Howden makes it 3-1 early on in the third. Matt Boldy's second of the game makes it 3-2, and then an empty netter as time expired for Brett Howden to give him his second goal of the game. Minnesota Wild had 1 power play in this game. They could not score, and that was the difference. We will see if the Wilds can rally in Game 2. Wasn't really upset with how the Wild played in this game. Just came down to a couple of mistakes. So we'll see what they have in store for Game 2. For more on the Minnesota Wild, make sure you follow Locked on Wild wherever you listen to your podcasts.
Basically just how we thought it was going to go.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the same thing that happened in Carolina, by the way. I didn't give much of a chance to the New Jersey Devils in this one, and you kind of saw it play out on Sunday. 4-1. Carolina takes this one just all Hurricanes. I mean, they were suffocating them from the first period. At one point, it was a 3-0 lead. New Jersey 0-51 all time in playoff games now when they've been down by 3 goals. And that's 0-51. Tyler, they've not had.
Where'd you pull that number out?
Hey,
where'd you find those numbers?
The great Mike Monaco has got me covered. The great Mike Monaco, both former play-by-play guys of the Wareham Gateman of the Cape Cod Baseball League. We've got each other covered. So that's the stat. I mean, Carolina suffocated them in every way possible. Let's hear it from our local host, Zach Martin of Locked On Hurricanes.
And just like that, the Carolina Hurricanes are up 1-0 in the series against the New Jersey Devils after winning 4-1 on Easter Sunday. What an absolute great performance by the Hurricanes. 1 for 3 on the power play, 2 for 2 on the penalty kill. Outshot the Devils 45-24. Jalen Chatfield scores the first goal of the series. Logan Stankoven puts in a couple himself to join 4 other Hurricanes rookies to score 2 goals in a game, in the fact that you got Andrei Svechnikov with the dagger to make it 4-1. Phenomenal performance from Frederik Andersen, stopping 23 of 24. And now the Hurricanes are in control after 1 with Game 2 on Tuesday. Can they go and win the first 2 games of the series and head back to New Jersey with a 2-0 series lead? Well, after Sunday's game and the performance they put on 5-on-5 and on the power play and penalty kill, and just an overall great game by them, safe to say it could be looking like Tuesday could be another great day in Raleighwood.
Logan Stankoven, 2 goals, as he said there. His team up 1-0. Just saying, Mikko Rantanen's team down 1-0. Tyler, we talked about this at the end of the regular season. The Hurricanes were a team that needed the reset button going into the playoffs after some bad losses down the stretch. I think they got exactly what the doctor ordered today.
Exactly. I mean, since they clinched back on April 3rd, clinched their 7th consecutive trip to the playoffs, the Canes entered the postseason here having lost 7 of their last 8. But the reality is they were resting guys. They were banged up. Were they going to be healthy? I figured this was going to be the case because unlike Carolina, New Jersey, on the other hand, they're a completely different team without Jack Hughes. They just are. They've looked totally lost with him out of the lineup. They've been banged up for such a long period of time, and that's really impacted this Devils squad. Not the case for Carolina, who has a little bit more playoff experience as of late, and we saw that here tonight. I mean, outshot 45-24, just a different energy. After the game, Nico Hischier, who scored the only goal for the Devils, he said it's not like the Canes were doing anything special. They were just playing hard, and we need to match that energy. Well, the reality is it's tough to match that energy when you have a trio of guys getting banged up in the game for the Devils.
Yeah.
Brendan Dillon,
Really short.
Luke Hughes, Cody Glass. I mean, they've got the injury bug and they can't avoid it. And so my question after this game, where they got totally dominated, do the Devils even have a shot? Is this going to be over in 4 or 5? I don't see there's any. Game 2's 5 p.m. Tuesday. I don't see anything from this Devils team to give New Jersey fans hope. The reality is you've got to hope to get healthy and then tackle next season.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of in the same boat as you. I don't know what anybody practices, but I knew that the Devils weren't going to win on Easter Sunday. It was a tough road. But Sheldon Keefe after the game did say precautionary for Brendan Dillon. To me, maybe I'm too old school, but like, what is precautionary? We're in the playoffs. Like,
Yeah.
what are you cautioning here? You know what I mean?
Think about it this way: is this team so banged up that you can't afford to have another guy be
kind of 5 defensemen out there the whole game, basically? You know, the last 45 minutes of the game. It's a tough situation in Jersey. We'll say that it is a tough situation. We'll see where the New Jersey Devils and Carolina Hurricanes and the other teams we talked about tonight fell on our playoff brackets. Let's do that next on Locked On NHL Game Night. But first, did you know that your Amazon Fire TV is also an Xbox? Turn any TV into your gaming and entertainment hub with Fire TV Stick 4K devices. No console required. Just grab your paired controller, subscribe, or log in to the Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with EA Play included, and you're ready to play. I mean, hundreds of premium titles, EA Sports College Football, Call of Duty Black Ops, so much more, as easily as you stream your favorite TV shows. It's gaming made simple, and it's all on your Fire TV. With 4K streaming, watch more than 1.5 million movies and TV episodes from your favorite subscribed services like Netflix, Prime Video, Disney Plus, Max, and more. It's how Tyler and I keep up with all these games all the time. So head to Amazon.com/FireTV Locked On and get started. Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription and compatible controller required. Available on select devices, including the Fire TV Stick 4K, Fire TV Stick 4K Max, and Fire TV Cube. back on Locked On NHL Game Night, rounding things out. I didn't know this, Tyler, but you actually had until today or tomorrow, Tuesday, the 22nd, to get your bracket in. It's not like March Madness. You don't have to do it before the first game, drops the puck. You can go through a game, see the injuries, assess the situation. And so we, as promised, have made our playoff brackets. Tyler, I want to start with you. Let's go through who you've got after 2 days of Stanley Cup playoff hockey, who you've got.
I'm glad I texted you because the NHL always seems to do stuff like this, right? Like, let's give you a little bit of a grace period. Easter weekend,
like
Passover, whatever you celebrate. Hope it was a great weekend. But I tackled this a couple days ago, and I feel pretty confident with my picks. But let's chat about it because this is a competitive playoff. I mean, look at what I've got here. An all-Canada Stanley Cup final. We'll start there. The Winnipeg Jets.
Gary Bettman will hate this, Tyler.
Taking down the Toronto Maple Leafs. Leafs, Bolts, Capitals, Canes, Kings, Knights, Avalanche, Jets advancing to the second round. Conference finals, Jets and Knights, Leafs and Capitals, and then you see the Stanley Cup final there. So if this is how it turns out, and I'm a genius, great. If not, I still think I'm going to enjoy these Stanley Cup playoffs just fine.
So all right, take me through this. What gets the Jets over the top? I know they're the President's Trophy winners. They've got all the numbers, but I think a lot of people are still skeptical of this team, right or wrong. So what is it that pulls Winnipeg all the way to getting their names etched on the cup?
The goaltender, Hellebuck.
That's pretty good. Yeah.
But I will say the star power for the Maple Leafs offensively, we saw tonight, that series would be electric. I'm not necessarily hoping for that series, but I'd love to see a Canadian team lift the cup again. And some of these Canadian teams are just so talented. I think this is the year it happens.
Look, as a good red-blooded American, I don't care if they win the cup or not up there in Canada. But as someone who loves sports, how great would that be in terms of the smallest market, probably in the NHL and Winnipeg, and the biggest market in Canada, in Toronto? That would be just terrific. And I think obviously, it's pretty tight in terms of the rivalries in Canada, but I think a lot of the country could rally around the Jets if they're going against the Leafs.
Why not?
Fun. All right. Without any further ado, we'll take a look at mine with much less educated guesses here. So I have got the team we were just talking about in the second segment. I've got Vegas going the whole distance here. I love the way Tampa's been playing out of the East as well. So I've got that. That's the matchup in the final. Vegas versus Tampa, the classic no state income tax.
We've seen that. We've seen these teams, Cam. Come on.
I know. Look, I went with my brain. That's the problem here. I didn't go with my heart, except for one pick, which is Dallas in the conference finals. You might remember last week I said Dallas was my pick to win the cup before this season. I honestly don't love them in this Colorado series right now, but I think they've still got the makeup to get there.
Yeah,
and I
that's
don't want to
crazy
embarrass
to me.
myself. So
that's the only crazy thing I'm seeing here.
If Heiskanen's back in this lineup in the next two games, I like the way they stack up still. I do.
Okay.
I've got Edmonton out in the first round. I said it also on the show last week. I just think the Kings are so tough at home, and they've been playing Edmonton really well. Outside of the last 3 years in the playoffs, they've played them really well in the regular season this year. I think they've won the Fogel thing, so I like them. And Carolina was a team I was skeptical about as recently as last week, and I still think with that barn and with Freddie Anderson playing like that, they can absolutely get to the conference final. I think Tampa is firing on all cylinders. Again, we kind of go with the goaltending. Vasilevsky's been just awesome. Kucherov is at the top of his game, whether he wins the Hart Trophy or not. But Vegas, man, top 5 in offense, top 5 in defense. They don't get penalized. They're great 5-on-5. They get depth scoring. I just think that's such a well-rounded Stanley Cup playoff team, man.
So if you're watching on YouTube here, here's Cam's bracket. Vegas Bolts in the Stanley Cup final. Real quickly, Here's my bracket. Leafs, Jets in the Stanley Cup final. Let us know. How are we doing here? Whose bracket do you like better? I think it's a tough call.
I'm partial towards mine, of course.
Oh, that makes sense.
Let me know how stupid I am, though, in the comment section below. I would really like to know, actually.
Yeah, I'll be sure to comment, Cam, and let you know how stupid I think you are.
Please do, man. Please do. If it is Winnipeg, by the way, I am firmly in Winnipeg's corner. I don't know how you can't be. I am totally in Winnipeg's corner. So.
Come on.
And I just don't think I can root for the Leafs. I don't think I can do it. But I think they have just as good a shot as anybody. I really do, as much as it pains me to say.
They're a good team.
I mean, if their stars are playing like this, if Marner can give you a 3-point night, the only knock on Marner is that he doesn't show up in the playoffs. This is now 53 points in 58 playoff games. It's only 12 goals, but 53 and 58, that's going to play, man. That is going to play. So if they can keep doing that, then I would not be surprised to see them up there in the Stanley Cup final. But Tampa's going to be a tough one to overcome. Anyway, that is the night that was in the NHL. So make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, ring that notification bell so you can stay up to date on everything we're doing here on YouTube and, of course, wherever you get your podcasts as well. I want to thank you for making the Locked On Podcast Network a part of your daily routine. And remember, you can join us here 7 days a week for all of it, all the NHL scores and storylines from your local experts and the guys like us, Cam Stewart and Tyler Feldman, on a little ditty we like to call Locked On NHL Game Night.